Hello, welcome again. My name is Carl Dore. Today we're going to do something a little bit different, and it pertains to a recent couple of monthly newsletters that our firm sent out. And we did one based on self-directed IRA programs and how you could use a SDIRA, a self-directed IRA program, for a real estate investment. What happened was we had 4 times the number of hits and openings on our online emailed document than we've never had on any other. So we felt like this was a topic that was highly of interest for a lot of you. So today I've asked Derek Long from Quest IRA, Quest Trust Company now. Quest is in our building, and their business, their company, and our firm basically take up the entire first floor of the building.
Pretty much.
Of the building. So I wanted Derek to come in and talk a little bit about how Quest Trust handles IRA programs, self-directed IRA programs, and then we're going to do a little, I think, Q&A. I think you'll like it.
Yeah. So guys, like Carl was saying, my name's Derek. I do work with Quest Trust Company, and I'm what they call a IRA specialist. I have special certifications with the American Banking Association, which pretty much just says, I read tax code and I'm a nerd. So what's really nice about that is I'm here for you, right? And the reason Carl wanted to put this on for everyone is it seems like there's a lot of questions and a lot of miscommunication when it comes to the self-directed IRA world. So that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, how you can use your current retirement accounts to do things like real estate investments, oil and gas, whether it's rentals, fix and flips, notes, it doesn't matter, but that's what we're going to be doing today.
All right. One of the biggest things is what type of assets can you invest in? Can you use in IRA funds? So there's some specialized requirements that the IRS prohibits certain transactions, but they approve others. Give us a little background on that.
That's correct. So with anyone's retirement account out there, if you didn't realize this, you can invest in almost anything. And that's the truth, literally almost anything. You can't do things like life insurance policies, things that they label as collectibles, could be, like antique cars or antique paintings, right? Or precious metals now, right? It used to be a long time ago you could, but those have kind of gone to the wayside. Outside of that, if you can take title to it, your retirement account can invest into it.
Now, people can open a self-directed IRA account pretty easily. You don't have to take all of your IRA. You can do a separate small investment and try it out. How can your firm as a trust company allow that to happen? How do y'all do that?
Yeah, so not only can you just take a small portion of your retirement account, most of the time you probably should. Right. This really comes down to a diversification aspect. If I think of my 401k or my IRA, I probably feel like it's diversified because I have it in all these Fortune 500 stocks. But realistically, when the market crashes, what happens? I see a big drop down. So all we say is, hey, take a portion of those funds and move it to a self-directed custodian. Obviously, I might be a little biased because I work at Quest, but Quest specializes in real estate assets. So if you're looking to do things real estate related, we're going to help you in setting up a self-directed IRA that is literally designed to do things like purchase rental properties, go through a fix and flip, maybe own some land, do some notes, or some sort of syndication aspect. And that is our job. So we literally will walk you through how to do those type of things very easily.
But Quest does not recommend investments, is that right?
That's correct. So unlike most people might have a retirement account that holds those stocks, right? Well, usually you have a broker. That broker's selling you an asset. Right. Now this is good because they're there to recommend specific investments. The whole purpose of a self-directed IRA is so you can find your own investment. Once you open up an account at any self-directed custodian, understand that they don't have investments for you, right? You need to go find your own property, find your own syndication, find your own piece of land that you want to purchase. And that's honestly the real key. Because you're investing in something tangible, something you can touch, feel, see, and look at, right? Not something that's a paper asset. Suddenly you have more control. And that's really why we call it self-directed.
Okay, the question I get a lot is, I found this fix and flip.
Okay.
I guess we should describe that a little
Sure.
bit. That term, right? So explain that.
So most of the time, right, we all seen those fix and flip shows. That is not what we're talking about, okay? Those are so far over exaggerated, right? But let's say you found a house, right, and you make an offer, right? You're gonna work with your agent and the title company, the bank if it's debt leverage. But when we read the buyer's name on the contract, instead of putting your name, honestly, we're just gonna put the name of your IRA. Right. Now this means that your IRA is gonna physically take title to a property. Now, when we do this and go through these motions, understand now the IRA can remove money and pay for things for like the rehab, replacing the roof, maybe installing carpet, buying certain maybe supplies like the refrigerator and oven, all these things. And really, it's nice to know that we can use our retirement account for these things and not have to pay any form of taxes or penalties.
So once you find a property, a single family house, and you fixed it up, you got to go. Can you rent it or sell it?
Absolutely, you can. So that's one of the biggest things is understand if I went and used my IRA and I bought stock, can I tomorrow turn around and say, hey, I want to sell that stock? Absolutely. Can I keep that stock and hold it and just collect my dividends? Absolutely. Well, this is the same concept when we deal with real estate. Understand my IRA can go buy that property. If I wanted to, can I sell it tomorrow? Yes. If I wanted to, can I rent it out and then just have the rents go back to my IRA? Yes. That is one of those amazing things. And now anytime we do these motions as well, understand that your IRA can do things like avoid capital gains tax.
Right.
So it really does help.
Second question, when I get on these single family homes, what's really common is I found me a great property, but I don't have enough money in my, and I don't want to take that much risk anyway in my IRA. What can I do? Can I combine other people?
Absolutely. So there's a couple options you have. Believe it or not, option one is a lot more common than people realize, but they just didn't know what was there. And that's just bringing in multiple IRAs to purchase one asset. I'm a prime example of this, all right? I actually currently own some oil and gas investments, right? Where the land that we purchase and the minerals underneath it, I use my IRA and my wife's IRA together to buy one asset. In addition, other options you may have if you don't want to combine multiple IRAs together, believe it or not, your IRA can take a loan from a bank. Now that's another whole topic, but it is very common that we see IRAs leverage a bank to receive a loan to purchase an asset.
Now, many of the folks watching this video are going to be pretty knowledgeable about oil and gas, but there are certain types of oil and gas assets that are not permissible. From my understanding, working interests, when you have a direct controlling position, is not permissible.
That's correct. So
Okay.
I always describe the IRA as its own entity. Your IRA, I always say, is a tax-exempt entity. When it does an investment, all the profits come back and avoid taxation. You are a taxable entity. When you do an investment, you receive profit and you pay taxes on your profit. So I can't take my non-taxable entity and then invest in myself, right? I can't say, hey, you know what, I work for this company, so I'm going to use my non-taxable entity to give it an advantage. It just doesn't work. So you got to make sure you're playing the right side of the fence.
So in the type of, I mean, I'm familiar with that oil and gas potential asset, and the one you're describing is acquisitions of a portion of mineral interest, true mineral interest. The landowner has decided to sell some or all of their mineral interest, and it's a consortium group that collectively pools their money, buys that, and owns the royalties that are generated by that mineral interest, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So if we listen to how he just said it too, right? Understand that someone already owns those minerals, right? They own this interest. They're taxable. They can't give it to their non-taxable entity. It doesn't work. So.
Right, that's right. Can't think of any, what other kind of things that you normally, wait, there is one. Can you describe, I know that there's, we get calls often to create a limited liability company, an LLC, to use with your self-directed IRA. Can you describe a little bit about how that is being used today?
Well, right now, we see mainly people trying to use their self-directed IRA for passive style investments, something they don't have to deal in day-to-day operations, right? And one of the best ways to go about this we've really seen is things like syndications, right? Where people are raising money for a multifamily or senior living complex or a hospital or something like that.
Right.
Notes are very popular, right? Where someone's just a lender, they're buying a note where they collect payments on a consistent basis, right? Or even things in the oil and gas industry where they just have the minerals and they're receiving dividends from that from a consistent basis. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it is. So how does the LLC work? You already have an IRA. Does the IRA own the LLC?
So in these cases, right, if your IRA wants to establish its own LLC, it's more than welcome to. It's nice. It's an easy way to go about it. It's also a great way to have additional levels of asset protection and hide your name, which I think is sometimes very important, right? We don't want our names always out there in the county records. Now, understand though, if you already have an LLC that holds assets, that holds cash, we can't use that one. Your IRA, once again, remember, try to think of it like its own entity. So the IRA would be establishing its own LLC or maybe its own trust or whatever entity that you feel comfortable with. Now, in addition, if your IRA is going to be establishing its own LLC, I want you to think of your IRA as the member. The IRA is the member, the IRA is the owner. However, the IRA is not the manager. So you got to bring in someone that the IRS calls a non-disqualified person to be labeled as a manager, and we always help people walk through those motions as well.
That's good. Member, by the way, for an LLC is very similar to a shareholder in a corporation.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing. It's just the title.
Yep.
What other common questions do you get that might be of interest to the viewer?
Yeah. Well, probably the most common question is, honestly, what is a self-directed IRA? Which I know sounds silly, but believe it or not, guys, it's actually made up. You can look everywhere you want in the IRS tax code. There is no such thing as a SDIRA, as a self-directed IRA, right? But we use this term as a marketing term. It gets back to those custodians or banks that will hold your retirement account. If I have a retirement account and it sits at what I call a public company, Charles Schwab and Fidelity and Merrill Lynch and Vanguard, well, I can only invest in public assets, stocks, bonds, annuities, mutual funds. When I have that same account, though, and I move it over to what we call a self-directed custodian like Quest, well, now I can invest in private assets, not public. Private usually means something tangible, something we can go feel and touch and see, like a rental property, like that fix and flip, like those minerals. So that's probably the number one question I think I see.
Good. I can't think of anything else.
Neither can I. I think we covered a lot.
All right, we did. Well, thank you so much. I hope you all enjoyed that. For other questions regarding self-directed IRAs, how to use them, how to manipulate them, can it fit for your portfolio? You can call Derek. You can call me. We can fix you up. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.